welcome to Land That Job. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe because I believe you're going to enjoy this video and this channel. With that being said, today we are going to discuss one of my most favorite topics, which is resumes. Now I know it doesn't sound fun, it doesn't sound exciting, but guess what? Most, if not all of us, will at some point in time need a resume when it comes to applying for jobs or networking with other people. So it's important that you understand what makes for an effective resume. When I say effective, I'm talking about a resume that will leave an impression upon the person that you hand it to so that they may consider giving you a phone call or even an interview. So if I were you, go ahead and stay tuned to this particular video because we're gonna get into the 5 tips that I have for you. 5 quick tips on what you need to do to make sure that your resume is on point. All right, so if you're not already familiar with what resumes look like or how they're structured, there's typically just 5 sections that they all have for the most part. The first is your name and contact info section. The next is the background and professional summary section. And then following that, you typically have your job history section, then your education section, and then you typically have your accomplishments section. Now, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get into what it is that you need to keep in mind when you're creating your resumes. The first tip is the job post. So you most likely were online looking for a job, and when you found the one that you like, you said, oh man, let me go ahead and start applying for this, right? Because you're excited at this point. But what people typically fail to do by the time that they're ready to submit their resume into the application, 9 times out of 10, an application will ask for you to submit your resume with it, is that they forget that the resume should reflect the job description. Yes, I know it sounds plain and simple and everyone should know that, but you'd be so surprised because most people, unfortunately, we can be a bit lazy. We can be a bit lazy when it comes to restructuring or rewriting our resumes because, I mean, who really wants to try their very best to make their resume, as explanatory, as detailed as they may think that it actually needs to be because you don't know if you're gonna get the job. Most people feel as though they shouldn't put too much effort into resume writing because you don't know if you're gonna get the job, you're probably fatigued, you're probably tired, you probably don't wanna have to do too much to apply for something. So you let that get the best of you. And I will tell you, that is the one thing that will unfortunately, put you behind in terms of the competition. You have to remember that hundreds of other people are probably applying for the same job, and unless you know someone from the inside, you need to make all the impression that you possibly can to land that job. With that being said, make sure that your resume, right, specifically in the job history section, that it actually reflects the job post. If the job post states that this individual or this position, requires that or is expected to perform X, Y, and Z duties, make sure that your resume states that you've accomplished X, Y, Z duties. Otherwise, you're not gonna seem as though you're relevant for the position. You wanna seem as though you have actually done the things that they're looking for. Most employers are often looking for people with the experience, and you wanna come off as someone who actually has the experience, and this is your chance to do that. Now, what I'm not saying is to lie. I'm not saying to lie whatsoever, but there is something known as creative writing. And creative writing just means you gotta be creative with your use of words to give the impression that you very much have completed the things that they are looking for. The next is about the background summary. So as I stated, after your name and contact, you typically have your background or professional summary. It's important that you understand that the background summary isn't where you speak about what you hope to do or things about your personality. I'm an energetic and fun person. First of all, as a recruiter, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. You're just telling me these things about your personality and your dreams and your hopes and wishes. which is fine. Maybe if you're talking to somebody, if you're, perhaps, networking, people can probably see it for themselves. But if I've never met you and you hand me a resume and the first thing I read on your background summary is I'm an energetic, detailed, person, meticulous and all this stuff, I don't know that unless I have, some sort of proof in the pudding, to know that for sure. Right? If you provide me samples of your work and things like that, then maybe I can say, oh, okay, that backs it up. But if you don't have any type of documentation or proof for things like that, I would say just stick to what you've actually accomplished. Stick to maybe the long-term vision for your career that you're looking to accomplish and why you're a good fit for the role. I think that's where the focus should be, because at least if you talk about what you actually have done, what you actually have accomplished, that gives it more right? That gives it more, it makes it more solid in my opinion. So do that instead. Now, when it comes to the job history section, so it's important to know that your resume should communicate your past performance by the end of the day. I unfortunately have seen people make the mistake of copying and pasting their literal job description, right, from HR, copy and pasting their job description and putting it into their resume. And honestly, that tells me nothing about how you perform. It tells me nothing about what you've actually done, right? One thing that is often said in the HR realm is past performance is a good indicator of future performance. So if I'm trying to hire somebody, right, using all the money, the resources and time that it takes to get someone in the doors, I'm caring more about what is it that you actually done than what your job description says. And let's be honest, not everyone has actually done everything in their job description. And sometimes the job descriptions are out of date. So it's important that you speak to what you've done by also speaking to what they're looking for, right? Like I said, if they're saying we're looking for someone with XYZ skills, you need to mention XYZ skills in them and that you've actually used them and how you've used them, right? So job history, remember, it's about performance, what I've actually done in this position that you want done for the position you're hiring for. Next tip is, and this is so obvious to me, but I understand it may not be obvious to others, but please keep your resumes black and white. I know, crazy, right? So in the day and age of being yourself and being creative and expressing yourself and being, personal in some ways, it's important that you don't necessarily translate that in your resume design, right? I've seen resumes on colored paper. I've seen interesting border designs on their resume. I've seen photos of people on their resumes. I've seen a whole bunch of things. And I'm gonna tell you, it can sometimes leave a negative impression. Like, it kind of distracts from the goal of the recruiter, which is really to look at the content of what it is that's on this resume. And you also want to make sure to appear professional. To appear professional means not doing all the extra frilly stuff. Unless you're going into a creative field, maybe a graphic designer, you're trying to apply to be a model or something, an artist, maybe all that may matter in those industries, in that type of career. But generally speaking, you just want to keep your resume black and white. You want it easy to read. You don't need to use the difficult text styles or anything like that. Times New Roman is fine. Arial or Calibri, I've seen those versions. Those are fine as well, as long as it's easy to read. You don't want your recruiter or the hiring manager to go jump through, hoops to try to understand what you put down. And if it is difficult to read, they're likely just not going to look at it. Why? Because they have so many other candidates, so many other applications to go through. So make it easy for them. Appear professional, black and white. You don't need to use special paper. Some people think they need to use cardboard paper and, the type of paper they use when they're printing out diplomas. No, you really do not. If you want to go the extra mile and maybe, use paper that is a bit thicker than normal, but that's still white, hey, that's completely up to you. I don't think it does any harm, but most times out of 10, we're just looking for the content Are you giving us exactly what we want and what we're looking for? If so, your resume advances, we're moving on. Last but not least, because this is a common issue I notice in other people's resumes, to include my own, right? I've made these mistakes. But please check for errors. Check for grammatical errors, check for punctual errors. Just check for errors that can come across as somebody who like, just look for errors that can make you look bad. Is that a good way to say it? Oftentimes we misspell things, and I get it, it's by accident. We could be great writers by the end of the day, great at speaking, but a recruiter or a hiring manager who's received your application that has never met you, they won't know that. Especially if you're listing somewhere that you're meticulous and you're detail oriented. Okay, well, you have a lot of details you missed on your resume in terms of errors, and you should have checked for that. And by the end of the day, the way that your resume reads or how it presents is a reflection of you. Now, if all of this sounds great to you and you know you're ready to go ahead and apply these things, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe to this video. If you are interested in me doing a resume for you, that I can do through my current company, Command Consulting LLC, go to commandconsulting.com and book a session with us. We'd love to work with you and do a resume for you. We remove the headache. All you got to do is spend some time with us so that I can get the information from you and put that together in a well-presented resume. Thank you again for watching our video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.